First of all, I know this is kind of a weird time for me to be uploading a video, but I wanted to make sure that I got this information out there early enough so that everyone in like Australia, New Zealand could have time to process ahead of the Team Go Rocket Takeover this weekend. So today we're talking about Shadow Pokemon and which Shadow Pokemon you really want to focus on, which Shadow Pokemon you want to use your charge TMs on during the 3-hour window this weekend in order to unlock their full potential by getting rid of Frustration as their charge move. To recap, in case you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, this weekend there is a Team Go Rocket event. There's a Team Go Rocket Takeover. So starting Friday, March 6th at 8 a.m. local time until Monday, March 9th at 10 p.m. local time, Poison and Dark type Pokemon in the wild. But most importantly, on Saturday, March 7th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in your local time, which is kind of soon for Australia and New Zealand, again, why I wanted to get this video out right now, a global Team Go Rocket Takeover will be happening. Grunts will be taking over more Pokestops. Sierra, Cliff, Arlo, and even Giovanni will also be more common, more active during this time. So there will be a lot of Team Go Rocket Grunts and leaders out during this event. But most importantly, during the takeover, you'll be able to use a Charge TM to change a Shadow Pokemon's exclusive attack, Frustration, to other charge attacks that Pokemon can learn normally. So right now, Shadow Pokemon all know Frustration as their charge move. Frustration is currently the only charge move that Shadow Pokemon can learn, and it's not a good move. So for that reason, Shadow Pokemon have not been super useful. But you see, Shadow Bonus is live in Pokemon Go. The Shadow Bonus makes Shadow Pokemon deal 20% extra damage, 20% more damage just by being a Shadow Pokemon. That's the equivalent of a Weather Boost. Shadow Pokemon also take 20% more damage now, so essentially it's a 20% boost to their attack and kind of a 20% debuff to their defense. But 20% is a lot of extra damage, and considering you can get rid of Frustration and actually give Shadow Pokemon useful movesets during the event this weekend, this is going to cause huge changes to the meta of PvP and make new best attackers of each type for raids. So tonight, we're going over which Shadow Pokemon are going to be the most important for you to use those charge TMs on during the event this weekend if you want to get the most out of it. So we're going to kick things off here with the best attackers of each type now that the Shadow Bonus is live in Pokemon Go. GamePress has a wonderful, comprehensive DPS and TDO spreadsheet that we've used many times in the past, and it's been updated to include Shadow Pokemon. Now, I have had to do a little bit of customization here because not everything is implemented just yet, but for the most part, you can go to this comprehensive DPS spreadsheet, it's linked in the description, and take a look at Shadow Pokemon for yourself. So we're just going to go through each type quickly and see which Pokemon are the new best attackers with the Shadow Bonus. So starting with Fire types, already off the bat, 3 Shadow Pokemon are at the top of the list for best DPS. Shadow Moltres with Fire Spin Overheat, 19.5 DPS. Second is going to be Shadow Charizard, but I have to explain something here. You see Blast Burn. Blast Burn is a Community Day exclusive move. Of course, you are able to get rid of Frustration on Shadow Charizard right now. You can't teach it Blast Burn yet, but if you read the Go Battle League announcement that happened, I think it was earlier today, Elite TMs are coming to Pokemon Go. An Elite TM is a new type of TM that will allow you to choose the move that your Pokemon learns, and not only do you get to choose, but you get to choose from any move that Pokemon has ever been able to learn. That includes Community Day exclusive moves. So Shadow Charizard with Fire Spin and Blast Burn doesn't exist quite yet, but will be possible once those Elite TMs are released. So if you want to eventually have a Shadow Charizard with Fire Spin and Blast Burn, you need to use a Charge TM on a Shadow Charizard this weekend during the event to get rid of Frustration, and then when Elite TMs are released, when you have an Elite TM, you can then use that on your Shadow Charizard to change its charge move to Blast Burn. It's a little complicated, it requires some extra work, but it'll happen eventually. I just want to cut in here to add that it might be a while before you can actually use an Elite TM on a Shadow Pokemon, because once the 3-hour window is over, you can't use TMs on Shadow Pokemon at all anymore. So you might need to have an Elite TM and wait for the next Shadow Pokemon TM event to actually be able to use that Elite TM on the Shadow Pokemon. So with that logic, you might not actually need to use TMs on Charizard or Venusaur, Swampert, Metagross, any of the Pokemon with Community Day moves. You might not need to use a TM this weekend. You might just need to wait for the next time we can use TMs on Shadow Pokemon and use an Elite TM then. Because even though you use a TM on Charizard this weekend, that doesn't mean you'll immediately be able to use the Elite TM on it once you get an Elite TM. You'll still have to wait till the next time you can actually use TMs on Shadow Pokemon, because we can't normally do that. Make sense? Of course, Shadow Entei, Giovanni's new Shadow Pokemon this month, also jumping up there to the top, all ahead of Reshiram, which isn't even in the game yet. For water types, Shadow Swampert takes the lead with Water Gun Hydro Cannon. Again, you will need an Elite TM to get Hydro Cannon. Shadow Gyarados comes in second with Waterfall Hydro Pump, taking over the top spot, which was previously occupied by Kingler and Kyogre, of course. For Grass-type Pokemon, Community Day moves at the top, and again, not quite yet available. You do need an Elite TM to get this Shadow Venusaur or Shadow Torterra with Frenzy Plant, but Shadow Victory Bell jumps to the top of the list for Pokemon that will be currently available as of the event this weekend. Shadow Shiftry also up there, both overtaking Roserade, which was previously the best Grass-type attacker. Crazy stuff happening in the world of Electric-type Pokemon. Shadow Electivire with Thundershock Wild Charge, new best Electric DPS, and it's not even close, 20.2. The next closest, Shadow Magnezone at 18.9. And of course, Shadow Zapdos, which I missed, 18.3. Also, I'm realizing now, Shadow Raikou's not in here. So just quickly, if you go to Customize, you can go to Species. You can choose a Pokemon, Raikou, and if you add Shadow to its name and click Save, it will then automatically create like the Shadow form of that Pokemon. Hit Refresh, and you can see Shadow Raikou jumps in there right under Electivire. So we'll just give it check best, and it'll only show the best moves for that Pokemon. Shadow Raikou, Thundershock Wild Charge, second best. Also, I lagged on Giovanni last month and didn't get Shadow Raikou either, so I'm missing both the Shadow Electric legendary Pokemon. For Ice-type Pokemon, Shadow Weavile moves to the top with Ice Shard and Avalanche, taking over Mamoswine. And I do want to mention also, these Shadow Pokemon are taking more damage, so their damage output is definitely greatly increased, but they're going to take more damage, so obviously Shadow Weavile is much more of a glass cannon than Mamoswine is, and I'm saying that so to say, don't feel pressured like you need to make these new Shadow Pokemon these best attackers. Your current Pokemon are going to do just fine, but if you're trying to do raid challenges, if you're trying to solo or duo Pokemon, and you need the best DPS, this is where these Shadow Pokemon are really coming into play. Your current Pokemon are fine. I want to say that again. I should have said it earlier. Your current Pokemon are fine, but if you want to do raids a little bit faster, if you're doing challenges, this is why yes, right? You know what I'm saying? Thankfully, fighting Pokemon are not too affected by this Shadow bonus. Lucario still at the top, Conkeldurr, Breloom, Machamp. Nothing much has changed here. Shadow Gallade comes in at number 5 now. Poison's interesting. Shadow Victreebel and Shadow Vileplume take the top spots, but we don't really use Poison for anything in terms of raids, so they're there. I wouldn't prioritize using TMs on these ones just yet. I mean, Victreebel is a grass type, definitely a good one, but for a poison type, not so much. Ground types also largely untouched by the Shadow bonus. Landorus, not yet available, but will be soonish. Excadrill, still at the top, Groudon, Garchomp, Rhyperior. We don't see a Shadow Pokemon cracking the ground types until Shadow Swampert here and Shadow Flygon, and even then, they're still going to be greatly outclassed by Landorus once we get that in Pokemon Go. The Therian form. We're going to get Incarnate form first. That should be our next legendary after Thundurus. but we're still waiting on that Therian form because it's going to be a lot better. For Flying-type Pokemon, Shadow Moltres, right at the top. But remember, Sky Attack is an exclusive move. It was from Raid Day for Moltres, so if you want a Shadow Moltres as a Flying-type attacker, you're going to have to use your TM this weekend and then wait until you get an Elite TM to get Sky Attack. Again, a Legacy move. Other than that, Flying types, you're pretty much in the clear. Not much has changed. For Psychic types, we see Shadow Alakazam taking the top spot, but Psychic is a Legacy move on Alakazam. So again, this one will require a TM this weekend to get rid of Frustration and an Elite TM in the future to get Psychic. We do also have Abra Community Day coming up. We don't know what the exclusive move is going to be yet. We don't know yet what's going to happen when you evolve a Shadow Pokemon that you've used a TM on. If you get rid of Frustration on, say, Kadabra, if you evolve then to Alakazam, I don't know if it's going to learn a new move or if it's going to get Frustration back. So I don't want to say the wrong thing here. If you want Shadow Alakazam with Psychic, that's a safe bet, but you're going to need an Elite TM. Make a Shadow Alakazam this weekend that doesn't know Frustration, and then use that Elite TM in the future. But do you need to? You probably already have a maxed out Mewtwo, so it's definitely a jump. But again, you don't need these Shadow Pokemon. For Bug types, Shadow Pinsir, Shadow Scizor, and Shadow Scyther all jump to the top of the list, higher than even Volcarona, the unreleased Bug Pokemon, Genesect, the unreleased Bug Pokemon. These Shadow Bugs are pretty serious. For Rock types, Rampardos, still the king, lucky us. Shadow Tyranitar moves up considerably. Of course, for Shadow Tyranitar, you're going to want Smackdown, which is the Community Day move. You're going to need an Elite TM if you want to get that move on it. If not, Rampardos, still a better attacker than Shadow Tyranitar. For Ghost types, Shadow Bayonet moves to the top of the list just barely. Well, actually, it's a big jump. Edges out Lick Shadow Ball Gengar and also Shadow Claw Shadow Ball Gengar. But, much lower TDO. It's not as bulky. And even Gengar is pretty glassy to begin with, but there it is. Top of the list. Shadow Bayonet. Shadow Salamence takes a commanding lead in the Dragon-type DPS charts. 22.1 DPS, beating out the current best, which is Rayquaza, beating out Black Kyurem, which isn't even released yet, and then Shadow Dragonite also up there. Both of them with Outrage. Not even a Community Day move there. So Shadow Salamence, definitely a good target if you want some serious Dragon-type DPS. For Dark types, Shadow Weavile, top of the list. Shadow Absol, right up there. Shadow Houndoom, Shadow Tyranitar, all these Shadow Dark-type Pokemon beat out even Darkrai, which is here this weekend in raids. So if you want Darkrai, well, maybe you want Shadow Tyranitar, or Shadow Houndoom, or Shadow Absol, or Shadow Weavile instead. They're definitely easier to power up. They're a little bit more expensive because they're Shadow Pokemon. They do cost more Stardust and Candy to power up. But Darkrai, you got to do a lot of raids to get those Darkrai candies, so maybe more efficient. I think Dark types is definitely one spot where you do want these Shadow Pokemon, as opposed to the other best attacker, which is, well, it's a restrictive Pokemon. And finally, we have Steel, where Metagross is king. Shadow Metagross with Meteor Mash, again a Community Day move. You are going to need the Elite TM, but it's a huge jump over standard Metagross here, which is currently the best attacker in Steel type. So there it is. Those are the best attackers. Those are for raids. And remember, you don't need the Shadow Pokemon. Your current Pokemon are already more than good enough, but if you want to do raids even faster, if you're doing solos, duos, that's where these shadows really come into play. Alright, next up we're talking PvP, and I want to go through this quickly because this video is probably pretty long already. The Shadow bonus is definitely going to make a difference in PvP. Dealing 20% extra damage, but also taking 20% extra damage is going to change a lot of matchups for some Pokemon, and PvPoke has updated rankings that now include Shadow Pokemon. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here as far as how much better certain Pokemon get. But I just want to go quickly through the rankings to kind of give you an idea of which Pokemon potentially are worth investing a TM into if you're interested in PvP. So starting with Great League, my favorite league, you can see that actually the Shadow Pokemon don't start showing up until number 20, Shadow Sableye. Obviously Sableye, great Pokemon as is. But with a Shadow bonus, even better. Shadow Dragonite moves up in the rankings there. Shadow Shiftry, Shadow Blossom is kind of a new entry. Blossom we haven't really seen that much in PvP, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. Shadow Dragonair. Shadow Dragonair comes in at number 27, and then you can see Sableye down at number 30. So we've got Shadow Swampert moving up, definitely a good one. Shadow Grottle coming up there. Razor Leaf. Shadow Gardevoir. Shadow Gardevoir is definitely a good one. I was watching King's video. Shadow Gardevoir picks up like a lot of new wins because of the Shadow bonus, so that's definitely a good one. Shadow Victory Bell, Shadow Gloom, and you may have noticed a trend here. Most of the Pokemon, the biggest beneficiaries of this Shadow bonus are Pokemon with very fast moves, very fast moves, or very hard-hitting fast moves. So the one-turn moves, the quick moves like Mud Shot, quick moves like Dragon Breath are going to benefit a lot, and then the hard-hitting moves like Charm and Razor Leaf also going to benefit a lot. Let's move on to Ultra League. I know I'm really just speeding through these because I don't have the best idea of where these Pokemon really fit. But honestly, the most general advice I can give you when it comes to Shadow Pokemon and PvP is any Pokemon that was okay or like pretty good or decent in PvP that has a Shadow form is going to be good with a Shadow form. So moving on to Ultra League, we have Shadow Swampert making the highest appearance as a Shadow Pokemon, but it's actually ranked lower than Swampert. So you can make one for Ultra League, but it's going to have different matchups. Just be aware of that. It changes some of the close matchups, most likely. Shadow Dragonite, again, making an appearance here, just like in Great League. Shadow Articuno. Articuno ended up being my favorite Pokemon in Ultra League. Shadow Snorlax ranks lower than Snorlax. Flygon moves up with a Shadow form. That's definitely one. I love Flygon. That's just personal preference. Shadow Charizard, just a few spots above Charizard. Already a very glass cannon type Pokemon in PvP, but you know, with a little extra damage. Moves up slightly in the rankings. Shadow Magneton, of course with Thundershock Discharge, no longer legacy moves. Shadow Magnezone. Shadow Steelix is here. Several places above Steelix. Shadow Scizor moves up. Scizor, have we done anything with Scizor yet in Ultra League? I feel like I was seeing a few. Definitely. Shadow Muck will be interesting, and Shadow Gallade. We're pretty deep now. Ultra League wasn't that deep, to be honest, so I don't think we need to go any further. We're not going to see many more Pokemon in the meta. And of course, Master League. Master League is just the same as Ultra League. I'll be honest, I got really bored with Master League in Go Battle League over the last couple weeks, so in terms of Master League, Shadow Dragonite ranks just below Dragonite. Shadow Snorlax moves a little bit above Snorlax. Keep going. Shadow Gyarados, maybe people will be using that. But once we get down here, like Regirock, Hydreigon, Latios, Glaceon, I was never seeing these Pokemon in Master League. It was really just like these top 10, 15, maybe 20 Pokemon. So, Shadow Pokemon for Master League, you really need a hundo anyway, and how many hundo Shadow Pokemon do you actually have? I wouldn't focus too much on Master League. Great League is probably where Shadow Pokemon are going to make the biggest difference, and any decent Great League Pokemon that has a Shadow form, you know, toss a TM its way this weekend if you have TMs to spare. I will be doing lots of just-in-case TMing of my Shadow Pokemon. Of course, my Shadow Pokemon collection isn't the biggest because Niantic never gave us any warning that Shadow Pokemon would be useful in any way, and I transferred a lot of them, but just to go through, my plans for the Shadow Pokemon are definitely to do the legendaries. The ones I have, Electabuzz, I know that's going to be a good one. And because I don't know if Shadow Pokemon are going to retain this move or if they're going to go back to Frustration when you evolve them, I'm going to make sure that these Pokemon are fully evolved before the event, before I use the TM. So just evolving this now. Anything that I plan on TMing, I'm going to evolve it to its final stage right now, so that I don't have to do that during the event. I can just use the TM and not worry about evolving it and then having it lose the move and having to use another TM. I suggest you do the same. I'm looking for my best Sneasel. I really wish at this point that I hadn't purified. Some of these Pokemon that became Hundos, because they were already like 98, 96 as Shadow Pokemon. But now I don't get the Shadow bonus, so we didn't get fair warning. But that's pretty typical for Niantic, isn't it? I don't think this weekend's event will be the only time that we'll be able to do this. This is the second Team Go Rocket Takeover. I suspect that during future Team Go Rocket Takeovers, we'll be able to TM Shadow Pokemon again, but now we know, and now we have even more Pokemon to hoard in our boxes. But you know what? I guess this is what I asked for when I said stop giving us Pokemon that look different and start giving us Pokemon that are different. Shadow Pokemon, up until now, have been just a visual change. They've been a reskin, but now with the Shadow Bonus Live, they actually have functional differences, and I'm actually excited about it. So, Shadow Pokemon moving forward are going to be a lot more interesting in Pokemon Go. Hopefully, this video has helped. Hopefully you know which Pokemon you want to use your TMs on this weekend. Good luck, have fun, and of course, Team Rocket will be out in force during the event, so you can go out and try to get as many Shadow Pokemon as possible. If there's Shadow Pokemon that you want to use TMs on that you don't have good versions of yet, you will be able to, hopefully, target those during that 3-hour window and get some new Pokemon to use your TMs on. Bye.